Welcome to the Startempire Wire Founders Podcast, where we make entrepreneurial founders a top priority. Each episode features risk takers, business builders, community shapers, institutional and government supporters in our local startup ecosystem. Tune in weekly to hear all about what's happening with the movers and the shakers of Southern California's Inland Empire and beyond. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Founders Podcast. Today, we are with Juan Navarro, who is the actual founder of Eastside Arthouse. He does a lot more, but he's really out there moving and doing some cool stuff. I'm going to let Juan introduce himself. So go ahead, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you as a person?
All right, cool. So yeah, my name is Juan Navarro. I am a local artist, muralist, and small business owner. I've done over 12 community-based mural projects here in Eastside Riverside, like within a 5-mile radius, and like literally 2 miles from downtown Riverside. So I'm very passionate about beautifying our neighborhoods, but I'm also very passionate about creating opportunities for other artists in Southern California. Who I am as a person, I'm also a father. I'm a married man. I always think success in business is cool, but I think success in the family unit is very important to me too. So I just find joy in both.
And you just had a son, kid.
Yes.
Son or daughter?
It's a boy. His name is Leonardo. Yeah, he's 5 months old.
Freaking awesome.
As of this interview, and I'm a first-time father, so it's like it's a very unique and beautiful experience, and I'm filled with a lot of gratitude for having awesome, that opportunity.
Yeah. Okay, so tell us, where did you grow up? What led you to the place where you wanted to become an entrepreneur and venture out to what you're doing right now?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of variables and a lot of different experiences that I was and challenges that I was introduced to from a young age that has helped me become the person that I am today. So I'll just spit out a couple fun facts of like just chronologically from very young. My mother was and my parents were very involved in the church. So there's a lot of volunteering that happened through like church ministries and like feeding the homeless, even to a point where we're washing homeless feet and giving them brand new shoes through a nonprofit.
Wow.
That was collaborating with our church, which was like very humbling. And that's something I had to do as a teenager, like washing strangers' feet, like crazy. That's like the most radical,
that is radical. Yeah.
That was participated in from I was young, that kind of like stuck with me. But then there's other more like, just working and volunteering at food pantries, getting people their groceries to help make ends meet in the Eastside neighborhood. So that's kind of what's important to me, is like, wow, like I've been working with people here since I was young, and it may not be in a professional sense, but it was through volunteerism, through church organizations that I grew up in. When I was young, I think around middle school years, so the home that I lived in was like in bad shape. My parents didn't really maintain it too well. So it was like it's part of like, even on the street, it's the same street has like historical homes in downtown Riverside. So there's a big home, but unfortunately, my parents didn't really maintain it too well. So it kind of fell down from its foundation one night while we were all sleeping in, and we had to escape to the back door. And it was a little bit of a dangerous situation where even the fire department came out and it shut off the gas. So at that moment, like theoretically, we were homeless. And my dad had no plans. He was an only child, so very dependent on his parents, but he didn't know whether he was going to inherit the home or not. So it had no incentive to like put money into it. So these are things that I didn't understand as a kid because I was so young still. So I didn't really think about it in that way. But I was like, oh wow, what the truth was is that we went from like everyone having their own room to like having nothing. The crazy part that I've met a lot of radical giving people in my life that I was able to look up to. So my neighbor was Mr. and Mrs. Stevens. He was a carpenter from UCR. His wife is part of the Historical Society, also the Rose Society.
Okay.
Both of them said, hey, we have an extra room in our home. You can live with us.
Yes.
I'm like, what? And I'm young and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I was so grateful that we at least didn't have to be homeless. We could live in our neighbor's house until we were back on our feet. So from a very young age, I wasn't really allowed to have friends over my house because it wasn't my house. There were 6 people, 6 adults. No, 6, not adults, but 6 people in our family. So 3 adults, 3 kids. So me and my 2 brothers, my dad's mom, my dad, and my mom, we all lived in one room. So it was a very dense room. Small space, very little personal space. And we lived as a guest. So what that meant was we had to be very polite. We had to be very supportive as best as we can, because they were being gracious enough for allowing us to stay there. So in return, we're trying to be as helpful as possible living in that home. And that's something that was given to me since I was, in middle school age, all the way up into, we didn't really move out till sophomore year of high school.
Okay.
During that period, I was also I was involved in the Spanish local church here in the East Side called Riverside Spanish.
Okay.
But then I also, during middle school, my dad wanted to make a shift of what church to attend. And we went to an all African-American church called Mount Rubidoux SDA. And we're part of Mount Rubidoux.
Mm-hmm. So I'm involved with Mount Rubidoux. I'm involved with Rubidoux Church.
Okay, cool. So that's super cool. Again, so just imagine we're Latinos and then we move in with Caucasian American household, right? We eat casseroles for dinner, and very what I would consider fancy Michelin style food. And then we also attended a black church, from middle school all the way into high school too, where I was part of a drum line. I was a drill team. I was part of part of their media department. I helped pioneer and direct sermons. And so I think there I also gained a lot of life skills. So the African American community invests heavily in their youth. And because, it's just to fortify them and prepare them for real life. And I think I benefited from that, even though I was Latino, being part of that community, helped a lot of my personal growth of where some of the mentors from there told me I told them I wanted to be a social worker, and then they're no, Juan, you're too artistic, and you're so talented in media. I know you know about cameras and video, and our concerts are the best. We know when you're on the board switching the shots, that literally these concerts are going to be fire to watch. So awesome. And this was my teen years. I'm talking about I'm 16 years old. I'm leading a team of 30 to 40 year olds, talking to them with a little mic and then saying, hey, camera 1, do this, camera 2, do this. And were
you helping out the youth department where Pastor Mike is now, or what?
That didn't I don't think that existed. I was I was a youth, but I was part of the media room, so the production side of things.
Okay, cool.
So with Auntie Nina was one of the names. She used to run the video. I worked with Armeliano Burnett.
Okay.
And just other people that was part of the media team. So
that's great.
That taught me that gave me something to be proud of. Because that was something that, again, volunteer based, but as a young person, finding identity in something that you're good at, and then adults telling you, hey, you're good at this. You want to do more. And then when they had paid gigs, they would offer me the job. So and
they would pay you.
They would pay me an hourly rate, and then for special concerts. And to me, that was my first taste of entrepreneurship, was that
I love it.
You were given opportunities because you were good at something.
Yes.
And imagine still be having this mindset, yes, theoretically I'm homeless, theoretically I'm a guest in someone's home. And we're at the grace of their generosity. Right. That even fueled me to give more. So while I always found ways to volunteer, give back, and even if it was through media, just giving back to our local community.
Wow.
So that's kind of my background, and I think these were the training grounds for giving me the work ethic. And there was some work ethics where I did take on projects early on that I felt I drastically failed. Meaning my younger self was a little too ambitious.
Right.
Have enough life skills to actually produce what I promised.
Yes.
But those failures as a youth, because I was given the opportunity to work, and the risk is when you give someone young an opportunity that may not have a full education yet, you're going to potentially invest in a loss in theory,
Right.
if you think about it. But those losses has like humbled me enough to be like, now I'm wiser, and as a grown person, I'm like, all right, whatever I pitch, I'm going to fulfill.
Yeah.
And if I can't like, I'm going to educate myself to that level to fulfill these services. So
well, that also is great too, because you at a young age experienced those failures, which, you know, some people don't experience them until they're later in their, you know, their later age, you know. So that's really good, because as an entrepreneur, you've got to fail. You know, you can't, like, no one's gonna be instant success, you know. So that's pretty awesome, you know. So tell us, from that point where you were gaining the experience doing the media stuff, you went on to, how did you get involved with Riverside Art Museum? What happened there?
Okay, cool. So basically, like I said, like that story where that my mentor from, you know, the church, who was just like speaking into my life, because obviously he was a big like, oh, we love the work that you're doing. So I trusted him, and I was just telling it. And he's like, so you're getting into high school, you're done with high school, you're going into college. What's your career? And then I said, well, I'm taking humanities.
Yeah,
I want to be a social worker. I think because I grew up in like in a Christian value like upbringing. I thought like, you know, Jesus is a really cool social worker, met people in their difficult times, and I felt like if I dedicate my life to being similar to that, it would be a righteous life. But at the same time, I was a very creative person and creative problem solver. That I finished my 2-year degree in a year and a half at RCC. I got an associate in human behavior because I had taken some AP courses. So educationally, like I was a little bit of ahead. So I had a half a semester of like, that was free because I had already gotten my degree. I'm like, why not go for another degree? You just need to get another degree. I'm like, okay, I'll take media. So I was very interested into film photography. That got me an opportunity to, like, even within the church setting, there's families that ran nonprofits in there as well. And I had an opportunity to travel to Africa for 2 weeks. I did some documentary photography work for a nonprofit that funded orphanages across Kenya, Nairobi, and surrounding towns. And that again inspired my entrepreneurship. It was as simple as asking. Like, it was as simple as me saying, you know what, I love photography. You know, I'm very interested in media. This is, why not take me with you to document your story? And the family surprisingly said yes, and they invested $7,000 because I did the calculations of like flight and like food, and they took me on the safari because they're also like they're also very like a very well-off educated family. So that they took me as one of theirs and took me to Africa with them. And I had this whole experience. Not saying that the work that I did there was great. It was like, it was mediocre, you know. I was still like,
you're still learning.
High school, so it's like, but the cool thing that they told me, they're like, Juan, if you ever finish your education in media, like, we would love to have you part of our marketing team. And I said, oh wow. So like, you know, like, even though that story, it's like, how does that go into art? Those promises gave someone like me that I felt like I'm coming from nothing and I had no money to, there's a promise opportunity. And sometimes planting seeds of promise opportunities, no matter if I grew into them or not, I think leads you to your next level or your next step of being an entrepreneur. So those promises from adults that they gave me, even whether I took them or not, I still headed in that direction, gave me confidence to change my career and focus in film and photography. And then in that, I learned about a live streaming app called Periscope.
Oh yeah, I remember Periscope.
Yeah, so Periscope was like, oh my gosh, like, you have live streaming on your phone now. Live streaming existed forever, but never from a mobile device. Periscope became so popular that it was purchased by Twitter. So the current Twitter platform for live streaming actually is Periscope bought out. And then once it was purchased, Periscope existed for 2 more years, and then it was dissolved. So now the engine that they use for live streaming, and the reason I know this because I was one of the first influencers of Periscope. Oh, I thought
you were a Periscope influencer.
Yeah, so that's how I started. So, but to be an influencer in a certain app, which was film oriented, you had to have content. So first it started with just games, but then it started with like, you know what, I like graffiti. I grew up like in high school, like influenced by art on trains, and again, my family wasn't really well off, so all the free art I got, any experience from art, was either through these art classes in high school, or what you saw in the trains. Like we didn't go to museums, you know, it's like, so it's either school education, which you probably take a course here and there, or like the streets that teach you about like color, lettering. And so that was like, that was something I pursued from middle school all the way to high school in the side. But I'm like, Christians don't do graffiti. I'm like, Christians don't destroy property. So there's always this like big conflict. Even my friends were like, what's going on with you? You're not from the street. Like, we're doing we're taking you to church, bro. Like, what do you mean you're gonna go tagging? And honestly, maybe there's always this harassment of like, don't do art, don't be an artist. Because my definition of an artist was like a street artist. But I didn't have the courage to be so destructive either, to do like so many illegal acts. So
vandalism, right?
Yeah. And in theory, like, to be honest, yes, there was one or two missions that I did do that were like in public settings that weren't supposed to be, but that was the only practice. That was the only walls I had to. I also heard of a story of a local artist named Jeff Soto, who's like, when I was growing up in high school, they said he was a street artist and then he became a gallery traded artist, and now he's world renowned. Art, like all over the US and all over the world, people buy his art, traditional art. So even his story, even though I didn't meet him or I didn't know of him, just hearing this story that existed, that gave me inspiration too. Like, hey, even though I may come from nothing, and maybe even if my art is not accepted in galleries because it's a street art, I know that street art could be my first version of what I know and just be good at that, and then grow into being a full-time artist. And actually that's what happened. Like, that's that awesome, man. Of myself in the future came from these narratives that were being thrown around as a kid. And now to this day, like, now Jeff Soto is recommending people to join my studio, which is amazing. Like, that's
wow.
Legend when I was like 15 is now recommending people to come to my studio.
That's freaking
work out
cool.
of the studio alongside me. So like, that's called growth. And this doesn't happen overnight. I would say it took 7 years from the moment like I consider myself an artist. It was very hard to say I am an artist, because I knew that I wasn't legit. Like, I'm a youth. I'm in high school, I'm in college, I'm in my garage, and I'm like, all right, I'm in my garage, no one knows me. How can I call myself an artist? You
didn't have the recognition of the world.
Yeah. So I'm like, no one knows me, and then only people on Periscope knows me. But there is even still a like a big like conflict in myself. I'm like, okay, even though people on Periscope so I did graffiti names for them, and I did like the Love Monster doodles, and I send out prints and stickers and just did what artists were doing.
You were just creating.
So it was freestyling.
That creation, I think creation compounds itself, you know? So like, the more you create, the more you can create. And I love it, man. The Inland Empire startup ecosystem industry is tremendously fragmented. A few top-tier hubs, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and San Diego, are well covered by media, events, and data platforms. Finding reliable information relevant to startups or the tech industry in the Inland Empire is extremely difficult. As a result, startups can't scale fast enough. Investors are having a hard time finding the right deals, and corporates can't find the right companies to partner with for their innovation activities. Startempire Wire, the leading Inland Empire startup publication, is providing the Inland Empire startup ecosystem with the most accurate, engaging business and financial data, events, and news. Our reach of entrepreneurs, C-level executives, angels, VC investors, startup employees, key management at innovative corporates, and big tech is the solution for your B2B or B2C needs. As we build out our platform, we're looking for partners. This is your opportunity to get in on the ground level. If you're looking to align yourself with the local and growing startup and tech ecosystem of the Inland Empire, we have created the platform to get your name noticed and the opportunity for you to grow the recognition of your brand. Contact us today for availability and pricing options. We look forward to our partnership with you. So what got you into the Riverside Art Museum?
Okay, so cool. So basically, I'll close out the Periscope story. So what happened to Periscope was, all right, live streaming built a big platform. So I went from like 0 to 12,000 followers. And on Periscope, you can do as many likes as you want, as long as people
no limits, huh?
Yeah.
No,
so basically, I had like 12 million
limits.
likes or something like that.
That's freaking awesome.
And I was gold badge. So like to some people that was verified. So I was like verified, and sometimes I would have 22,000 viewers from all over the world. They're like, "Who's this guy? Is he famous?" Because
that's
people
cool.
are traveling all over the world. Yeah. And like, so I, sold merch, did everything that I thought an artist needed to do: prints, t-shirt runs, everything. But it was not all legit. I felt guilty because it wasn't a legit business. It was just someone with a Venmo account. And I'm like, okay. So I took a business class in college, and then my college professor that was in business said, don't say that you take cash without reporting it. I'm like, oh shoot. Yeah. It's like, that's disrespectful. And then I'm like, well, I didn't know better. I don't have like a business mentor. Like I came from nothing, So then even that like kind of made me even more like, it went from like this high of like, oh, you're recognized, and I'm traveling to San Francisco, bro. Like, I tell people I want to fundraise for this, and they're like, let's go, we'll fly you out there. So people were buying my merch at a saturated price, because they believed in my vision and being an artist. So there was a strong community, people from Australia, people from Texas, people from San Francisco that were buying my stuff to get me to the next level. And all I was doing is being honest with where I was at. I would get fan mail. That's people awesome. Were like, I never paid for art supplies for the first couple of years of my life, because there was people that believed in this young person that was able to say, I'm no one, I'm not even considering myself an artist yet, but I want to be. Yes. And that narrative continued into getting me to different levels, right? I was a speaker at Periscope Summit. I was a part of like basically a convention that also Periscope sent me a fan page, a fan mail. They sent me socks and everything. So I was working with the app. But then they're like, what happened? So what happened was I became too ambitious again. So I always hit my limits of ambition. And this ambition was, I want to go across Mexico and I want to do free murals for orphanages. Wow. Because I just want to because I didn't have any responsibilities per se, because I was living with my parents still. So money to keep in my account didn't really matter. It was just taking the money and reinvesting it to my
reinvesting it.
And I think that's the wealthiest version. Like, you're wealthy twice. You're wealthy when you're young because your parents could take care of you, and then you're wealthy after you built your cash flow, and then you're wealthy again. But there's this middle component of life where you kind of have to be a little restricted and be wise about where you distribute. So enjoy, as like a young person, like enjoy testing your money and that's your brand and your vision.
That is good advice. Young people, if you're watching this interview, that's good advice. Because you don't have any responsibilities when you live with your parents,
So if you tell me, Juan, did you travel? I'm like, yes, I was in Beverly Hills. I was in like freaking, I went to like Mexico, visit the pyramids, and awesome. Years before I was in Africa, so I was like traveling and doing whatever the romantic idea of like living to your fullest. But then I realized like, I want to do this next level thing. I want to give back. So now any sales that I do from now on is to save up for this vision. Okay. And behind the scenes, I was calling orphanages and saying like, hey, can I come to your orphanages? I'm a muralist, I'm an artist. These are the people that follow me. This is my campaign. This is what I do. I'm Love Monsters. I gave life lessons throughout like my art too. I also, because I had a background in the humanities, like I would give people like, just mindfulness talks too with my work. So that's what added value to my brand and built it to like, This is like a people loving brand. And this is why we want to focus on philanthropy. So I was able to live my philanthropy lifestyle, but not running a legit business, but I didn't keep that money anyways. I gave it away to different causes. And actually my first original art piece that was auctioned off for $1,200 gave me the confidence to say, hey, I actually am a selling artist now. Even though that money didn't come to me, it went to the Walk Out of Darkness. And
people actually exchanged money for your work.
Yeah, and then I'm like,
That's
oh
freaking
shoot!
awesome.
So now I'm gaining the confidence, and like, shoot, now I am actually an artist. Now
Yes.
let me give back right now, because I don't believe that you have to be really big to give back. If you want to give back now. You know,
Start where you're at. Start where you're at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I called, but this is where the failures happen. Another big failure, which was these orphanages were not welcoming. So I had this like very optimistic view of the world, thinking like, hey, if it's for free, people will gladly accept it. They've been accepting all of my other ventures. And then when I came out to the real world, the real nonprofits, it wasn't just individual people funding me. It was like I'm trying to work with like the big professionals, right?
Yes, yeah.
They're like, no, do you know who we are? We're talking about kids here. And I'm like, oh, and then I had to think, I'm like, what am I doing wrong? I'm like, oh, that makes sense. I'm a male.
Yep. Yeah.
There's kids. And there's a threat.
Yeah.
Adults visiting places where there's kids. So like some people may come with good intentions, but because the community doesn't know you,
right?
Then that means it doesn't matter if you were the best painter in the world.
Exactly.
I don't care if you're like the most recognized person, you cannot be around these kids.
Yeah.
Because of previous abuse. And then I'm like thinking back, I'm like, oh, I learned that in Africa too. Because when we're visiting orphanages, this is part of the problem that they were having there too, where there was abuse within the orphanage system. That I'm like, you know what? And then this is my theory of what got me into Riverside. Like, even though I was living in Riverside in my garage, no one in Riverside knew what I was doing. Everything was online and it was global, but it wasn't. No one, not even the museum knew of me. No one knew of me.
Yes.
Because I was like a secret, like teenager, high school, college student, like building his brand private.
Just building.
Online.
Online.
You know, and then I realized my theory was, if the community doesn't know you, your opportunities will never come to fruition, because you're not connected to your community. You have to establish rapport to receive the opportunities.
There you go.
Even if you're good at what you do, they're given to you because people know you and they know that you truly care, and they can also they know someone that can vouch for you.
They can vouch for you. Yeah, that's right.
The moment I soak that in, I'm like, you know what? I got to start from scratch. Stop live streaming. I stopped pursuing that. I apologize to the audience and say, hey guys, thank you for those that have contributed to this fund. I want to know. It never happened. We can stop fundraising now, and just know that either you can ask for a refund, or just know that I am slowly seeping into these funds to like live into my, like, basically for my sustainability, because we had to hit that deadline in order to spend that money there. But as my living continued, like, then that means that pot of money was getting smaller. So I was super transparent with everyone. Right. And everyone was like, you know what? It's okay, Juan. We understand. So they were very gracious to me, and everyone was like, it's all good. Like, keep the money. Cool. Like we're here. We're here to support your dreams.
Just supporting you. Yeah.
You know? So I'm like, all right.
But so you had built an online community, but you had never built a community off the internet.
Yes. So that was my thing. So then I'm like, how do I get plugged in? And then I had a friend who married an artist. And this artist was working within the community, and she had a volunteer opportunity through someone who worked for a nonprofit called Riverside Community Health Foundation. Okay. A public health initiative called Heal Zone in Eastside Riverside, where they were creating programs for youth to paint murals in an alleyway to beautify that alleyway. And where there was a lot of crime, where there was a lot of trash everywhere, where there was like illegal activity happening. And they're like, look, these youth can be empowered to create murals to tackle these things. And I'm like, I totally saw these programs in San Francisco while I was traveling. And my dream was, I wish they had something like this in Riverside. But as I'm wishing, there's already another company already doing that. So I hopped in, and then I basically applied for it, and I volunteered my first time. And then they're like, Juan, the kids loved you. They love your story. They love Monsters. They love what you're building. Can you come back again and help us with another mural? And I said, I can't do it for free. So I gave him a taste, right? By then I already had an iPad Pro, I already had Procreate. By then I had already elevated myself to like a professional level that it's were
you in the art museum yet?
No. So basically the art museum headhunted me from that program. So I helped to produce so much murals for the Riverside Community Health Foundation to the point where my value went up, to the point where they're like, okay, we can't pay you more than this. Like we're paying you more than our own employees. Like we basically, it's like almost illegal for us to pay an artist when we're a health organization. And then that's when the museum raised their hand and said, hey, can we hire Juan? because we
That's
have
cool.
the money and we have the permission to pay an artist.
So you
we
knew
also love what you guys do. So they bartered. They're like, look, we'll hop in on your programs. But we would fund Juan to support your programs as long as you let our logo be part of your projects too. So now both companies are collaborating on this like art and health led initiatives to produce these projects. And that's when I became first I started with a couple projects, but then they're like, all right, Juan, we want you for the whole year now. So like again, for them it was wise for them to say, we don't want to pay you per project because that's expensive. What if we offer you a residency that will cover your whole year?
That's cool.
Work for us. And not only give you a residency, we're gonna build you a house. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Let's get into that detail. But how long were you with them at the residency before all of this happened? Like, how long were you with the Riverside Art Museum?
Oh, okay. So for basically, I've been a resident artist for, I would say, officially since January 2019. But I was doing work even 2 years prior to that already. So since 2017, I've been active in Riverside.
That's freaking awesome.
And only like, and I don't know if this is a business podcast. I'll just be transparent.
Absolutely.
It was $300 murals.
Yeah.
Which to me is like, it's very hard. Like these murals will not take 2 days. Let's just say that.
Oh yeah, that's so like a low price for a mural, right?
Yeah. So it was something that along my journey, I've always tried to advocate for the true cost of artists. Right. And first it was just vouching for myself, and then later became pitching programs that also included more artists than just me.
Bro, that's good. I'm an art student, right?
Oh wow!
I Bachelor of Fine Arts. That's my degree. Yeah. So
that's the first time I thought you were a tech guy. Well, I thought you were doing coding and stuff.
I do coding as well, but I got my degree in visual communication. So like I just ventured into tech and code because people don't pay a lot to artists.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's amazing, but that's so cool that you know what, I'm gonna keep you in mind.
Okay.
That's so cool. That is so cool.
Awesome. That's why I feel like we connect too. Mm-hmm. So you were there, you got a house built for you. What happened there?
Yeah, so I'm like, what the heck? What do you mean you're offering me a place to live? And keep in mind, like literally when that moment happened, we finally were able to move out of that homeless situation, and my stepdad was able to rent a house over where Ramona High School is at, in that neighborhood over there. So I kind of left like Eastside and downtown. I was living kind of down on the other side of Riverside for a while.
On the other side, okay.
But even though I was working out of my garage, out of a street in Arlington where the Sears used to be, I would commute here to the east side because I had already experience from downtown and east side neighborhood.
Yes.
So they're like, yeah, we're building a brand new house and we want to offer it to you. Do you want to apply for it? And I'm like, no way. Like,
wow.
And then
that's freaking awesome.
Little did we know that this project was sitting on the city's desk since 2012. So
that's freaking awesome, dude.
But they found someone that was like building all these projects, engaging with communities, collaborating with government, local nonprofits, and communities. So I felt like being an ambassador across all levels. So when the government wanted something done, like they would voice it out. But then also when the nonprofit wanted their goals met, they would voice it out. But then when the community wanted something done, they would voice it out. And I felt like as an artist, I was able to weave in everyone's thoughts and saying, look, I can collaborate with all these thoughts and produce art pieces for you guys that are relevant to both on a government level, meaning lowering crime, beautifying neighborhoods, increasing quality of living, and then basically in the museum's perspective, like creating quality pieces of mural making that also engage the community, especially the undermined community that's right next door to downtown Riverside, right? Which is the East Side community.
Yes.
And then the community's voice was, they wanted opinion in the art. So like I was able to check off all three partners, and literally we had this large committee made up of a lot. We even got to work with Public Works. We got to work with a lot of different nonprofits across. And then another nonprofit that happened to build a house was the Riverside Community Housing Corporation, or Riverside Community Housing Development Corporation.
Yes.
or RHDC. That's
Okay.
what I can tell.
Okay.
So Riverside Housing Development Corporation. So what they did is that they had this concept, which is like in Riverside sitting since 2012, which was if we built a house for someone with talent and we gave them an affordable house, then they get to build a career. And that was the premise of their partnership.
What?
And they said, Riverside Art Museum, can you collaborate with us and you provide an artist? They're like,
That's
we
so
have
cool.
the right artists. And these concepts, I was barely graduating from high school. I hadn't even decided to be an artist yet.
Wow.
And these theories were already happening. And it was just like me being at a perfect time at the perfect place.
Right place, right time.
But then it was right place, right time, with the right skill, with the right work to prove it.
Yes,
and then I inherited this project.
That's so great, man.
And they built this home, and I've been.
You showed me pictures of it. It's beautiful.
So,
it's a beautiful home.
It's super home. Sick. Yeah. So a lot of blessings came from that, right? And it went from like, you know, a childhood of like risk or of homelessness or just one bedroom for overcrowded bedroom,
man,
sharing my bedroom with my brothers at a rental, you know, with my family, and then now moving into a 3-bedroom house, like with a master bedroom, and like just like these were the rewards that came with being a community artist. Like what? Like I didn't do this to earn that. It just became to fruition during my growth.
You're on your like you're in your purpose, you know, with what you're doing, because you're really affecting a lot of people. You're a great influence with what you're doing with the art stuff. I watch your, you know, Instagram page all the time. So the question is, what is Eastside Arthouse? Let's talk a little bit about your startup. What is Eastside Arthouse? What is it about? I see you're at the studio right now, you know?
Yeah. So Eastside Arthouse is a co-working studio space where professional and emerging artists can work out of this studio with a $200 a month fee, and basically work on your artistic projects and practice. And we're basically inherently and naturally, I don't promote this, but it cultivates a like very powerful think tank of both innovating our craft, our business, and like our creative cultural influence as well. So like it just became this thing that's much further than a workspace. So in theory, it's just an empty room for artists to work in, but the momentum and the spirit behind it, I think that's what makes the Eastside Arthouse a special place, is the type of people that share. That's what it attracts, because if you're an artist and you don't like to share, you're not going to get to the studio. But inherently, people that share are people that kind of are on the same wavelength as me. I've been sharing my whole life. I've shared a bedroom before. And maybe a good person, because I know how to share. So like artists are coming to the door as inherently like great people to work with. We're collaborating, and inherently everyone's just uplifting to each other, and we're creatively challenging each other. And we also even give each other a sense of like, you know, like, oh shoot, you're working, I'm motivated to work too. Very similar to WeWorks, very similar to Minded Mill, but this is exclusively for an artist. And because me being an artist, I was able to create a business in the detail that meets the needs for the artist. And my network has been established over the last, like my history that I just explained to you. That network has grown to where I'm much more than a space. This business is actually, you're going to inherit also networking.
It's that community
and niches of our business that you have never been aware of, that I wish I had when I was growing. So this is like a like shortcut to like your art career.
That's so awesome, dude. Like I'm telling you, if I had you when I was in college, when I was, you know, going through, I was in Houston though, but if I had Eastside Arthouse when I was in college, I may have gone down the more artsy route, but I've always been attracted to tech. So even though, you know, I went through art history, man, I can show you all projects, my portfolio, all of that stuff.
That's cool.
Your studio would have been such a value to me, you know, because, you know, I love the feedback you get when you're creating art and people critique and all of that great stuff, you know, all of that, you know, was part of my time being an art student, you know? So tell us about the growth. Like, when did you begin? And then where are you guys at now? You know, how you're developing community, what kind of initiatives are going on at Eastside Arthouse? Let's get into some details.
Yeah, so just an origin story that still connects you to like my full scope.
The full scope,
which would be, all right, so if you were an artist and you were invited to a meeting and you saw me presenting all these successful community-based mural projects, I have over a dozen within a 5-mile radius, you're gonna say, who is this guy? He came out of nowhere. And now there's 12 plus murals in my community because of this person. And why does the museum keep choosing him? And why does he have a brand new house? It doesn't make sense from another artist's perspective. It almost seems like I've been in this community for 20 years and where's my cake? Where's my opportunity? What makes this young person at that time? I was young. Right now I'm 28. Like I'm
still young.
I'm getting into my, you know, I got some grays coming in now.
Little gray.
So I'm getting into like my, you know, I would say I'm getting out of my young adult phase and getting into my more adult level of mindset. But I think early on, there was a lot of, I felt the uncomfortableness of other artists thinking like, bro, what's going on? Like, this is weird. Like, this guy is getting everything, all the cake.
Yes.
And I felt bad because I wasn't here to dominate. I was here to serve the community.
Right.
But why inherently am I dominating? And people are like, well, that's fine, Juan. This is capitalism. You're only people are gonna choose the best every time. But then I'm like, that's not fair, because what if I wasn't always the best?
Yeah.
I was the last.
Yeah.
4 years ago, I was like the bottom of the bottom. No one knew me.
Right.
So then in my mind, I took that critique to heart and I said, you know what? If I ever make it enough to just make it just enough, I won't consider myself like I've made it, but I'm like, if I ever get enough to give back, I will keep that message in my mind. I know that other artists are in need of opportunity. Other artists are in need of being elevated. And maybe I had to figure it out on my own. It took me a long time to figure it out on my own, but I want to build a space where it's going to serve other artists. And if the institutions may not have the capacity to serve all the artists in the community, then why not create a private label that can serve artists? And that's why our house was born, out of the need of just like, all right, so all this success was given to this one person because of his successful projects. But what did I do with my success? Did I take it and keep it for myself and just kept dominating the field of mural making? I'm like, no, I don't want that legacy. I want to be able to give back immediately.
Share it.
So this is a high risk business of me reinvesting my success into the community that made me. So it's literally in the East Side because the East Side dollars paid me to exist. They paid the artists to keep doing these projects. So instead of taking this money and spending it in Orange County or going to LA now and becoming a successful artist because they launched me, why not build something that's going to marry me to the community that built me? Because why like make all this money on this undermanaged community? I'm not saying that I made much. I made the minimum. Right. I made very little, but I took my very little and I built this space. So
I love it.
Kind of like a love story to my community, not only to the artists in my community, but also to the community that I want Eastside to be proud of something.
Well, one, you can technically say, I mean, the way I look at it is that the success that you've had kind of paves the way for others. You know, like whenever, like I'm from the country, I'm from Texas, so we always have, you know, massive wooded areas and fields and weeds. You gotta, when you go first, you gotta chop all the weeds out of the way, and then the next person comes behind you. So little did I know, while, you know, we were holding our word camp conferences right next to your studio space. What is your studio space now? Like in Solar Max building, that Solar Max building. I mean, so when I went over to your studio the first place, I was like, this is right over here where WordCamp is. Now, you know, me starting that meetup group that I started and doing these conferences, you know, people may be like, oh my goodness, you know, like, you know, why does he get all the attention? But it's just all about the risk. you know, some people can stomach more risk than others. That's the entrepreneur spirit. Mm-hmm. And if you're willing and ready to spend your last dime to try to make your business succeed, people may not know you spending your last dime, but you're out there risking capital. Mm-hmm. That's what entrepreneurship is about, you know?
Yeah.
And you never rest on your laurels. You're not saving up money. You're taking that money that you got, you put it back into the business. Mm-hmm. And that stuff, I don't think you should feel guilty for it, because it's not selfish. It is actually the most benevolent thing somebody can do. It's selfish to want to stay small. It is benevolent to want to get bigger and bigger and bigger, because who else is taking the risk? So I just want you to not feel bad.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
From yourself, so I appreciate those words. And there was a limit. There was a time limit for me too. So yeah, I bring up being a father because the day I found out that my wife was pregnant, I said, all right, I either have to grow from where I'm at today, or I'll never do it at all. So my dream was always building my own studio.
Yes.
Was to build this idea, but I have 8 months. Because my baby's about to be born. So I know if I don't move this capital into a business, this capital is going to go into like living the dad life, you know? So I had to, you know, meet with my wife and tell her like, hey, I believe in this vision.
Yes.
All these stars are aligning, and this is the best time to start this business.
Yes.
Because in the future, we're gonna have an amazing art culture. That it's gonna blossom like crazy. Like the Cheech is happening. All these other contextual city contexts of like, if the investment doesn't happen now, and we wait until like as it become even more successful, so it's safer. Then it will be too late.
Right. No,
and I came in now. And
it's that opportunity, that time of opportunity.
And I put every dime into it. So
you know, I don't think a lot of people see that though. Like, because when you recognize an opportunity and you see there's only a window of time that you can do it, and you're like full speed ahead, people are like, why are you rushing? Well, because if I don't, this opportunity is going to pass, you know?
Or they say, who are you? Didn't you just start doing art? Like, aren't you just relevant to Riverside 4 years ago? Like, I had people, and I know, and I'm not going to say any names, but I had people say, you're growing too fast. I've had people say to me, you're charging too expensive for your space. You know where you're at? I've heard it all.
Always going to have naysayers. You're always going to have the naysayers, man.
So that's something that to this day, like, there's gonna always be those negative comments. But honestly, what's crazy is that when I get home and I tell my wife on my weekdays, because even I have weekdays, right? When I question my decision, she says, Juan, even if you quit today, what you were doing, the art house is already considered a success.
It's already a success. Yes.
It's already a success. If tomorrow you stop everything you're doing and you say you just decide to be a stay-at-home dad or whatever.
No,
you are already
absolutely
successful, because the breakthroughs you've already had already deemed successful. So like that gave me comfort, right? So there's a lot of naysayers, and like, there's people that are going to tear you down, and there's people that you shouldn't be doing these murals. There's going to be people that are saying, why don't you sign your murals? Like, there's some murals I don't even sign because I feel like I've made it so closely with the community that I can't put my name on it as like a sole person, because there was like 20 to 25 people that made that piece with me.
Right.
And like, this belongs to everyone.
You're sharing that success. I don't know if I mentioned this the last time I came to the art house, but I was writing an article I'm still writing an article on rainmakers. Do you ever remember me talking to you about that or no?
Oh, yes.
Okay, definitely. So in a sense, you're a rainmaker, okay? People who are out in the front, they're creating this, when there's a drought, you don't have much flourishing, you don't have much growing. Who's gonna cause the rain? Like in these mythical rainmakers back in the day, they dance, they do whatever, they cast spells, but whenever they bring the rain, whenever they work their magic, they bring the rain to an entire region that is dry, that needs to be, needs some growth, it needs new life, and everyone benefits. So people like you people who are entrepreneurial, who are out in front, who are risking capital. In a sense, you're a rainmaker. So,
and I could give you some, like, I could cite right now some projects of how my simple paintings that I think are just regular community murals that other people other artists would like judge me on. They've bought millions of dollars of investment to Eastside Riverside. You can Google TCC, $23 million grant.
Come on.
Granted to university, and then these are in partnerships with these nonprofits that I work for. But these nonprofits, the way they win this money is because they wrote a piece of my story into their proposal. They're bringing buses to tour these murals to prove to the state there's people here that want investment in their community. And look at these artworks. These are grassroots projects. These are volunteerism. Can you help these people? And these pitches are so bold. Bobby Bonds, we just did a free mural over there. The Art House did, and they just won another $20 million through Sabrina Cervantes. So I could comfortably say there's been like over $40 to $50 million worth of state funding that has come, and even private funding, like from Kaiser and other grants that my partnering nonprofits have won. Now, I know my stories were in it because I was presenting on those tours of those funders that come to visit this town.
Rainmakers,
so rainmaker, even though I don't see any of those millions. Cool.
Right, but it's benefiting the community. It's benefiting the community.
Know that the investment in this community, you're going to see better roads here. You're going to see better infrastructure. You're going to be seeing our community becoming more green. There's actually going to be 1,000 trees planted in our community. How did these things get funded? Well, it was because a little bit of my story was added to those narratives that empowered their message, and they were able to win that money.
That's freaking awesome.
That's macro scale. Now we talk about micro scale, being a rainmaker. It was funny. I was just reminiscing with one of our studio members here. Lizzie, she's one of our first members, and when I started the studio first, I told her, "Hey, I'm gonna charge you $100 a month, half price, if you join a studio, and I promise you, I could teach you how to make your first $1,000 in art." And literally, she says, "I remember the day I made my first 1,000 because of you."
That's freaking awesome, dude.
So like this weird story of like, wow, like I can see examples of how people are financially growing around me. That really, like, that builds confidence in me to keep doing what I'm doing. If it's going to benefit other people too. You know, like literally my goal, I know it sounds like really like above, like impossible, but I want the $200 membership to feel like a Costco membership, because you being here is going to make you
that much better.
6-fold, 10-fold, 5-fold. Because like I'm going to equip you with the right like anything that I know that you can use to then level up. And that's cool. Like, do it. You know, all I'm asking is like for that studio membership, and that's it.
No, I love it. And I think, you know, as, you know, people who are in, you know, this community begin to see, you know, all the work you're putting out. Cause I watch your Instagram, I watch what you guys are pushing out, the murals, and I haven't been to like any of your trainings or anything yet, but you know, I'm going to spend some more time over there at Eastside Arthouse, and I'll get a membership in the future too. But
we actually do have a tech guy. We have a lawyer working here, and they work on the creative projects as well. And
Mike, right?
Mike Ortiz. And
love Mike.
They're doing some cool stuff in the crypto space. So yeah, there's definitely further research happening in the tech space with our.
And you guys have 3D printers too.
Yeah. So what's cool about starting a studio is that once it's started, there's people that are coming in with a lot of talent that bring their own strengths and contribute it to the space. So like Jonathan Godinez is one of the artists that came through, and he's like, I got 3D printer. I'm gonna teach it. I'm like, what? So
so he teaches. Does he teach that there?
He does do coaching or teaching on a personal level, but he brought in the 3D printer. I invested into the equipment, and literally he leads that. Again, other people, it's like, I want to bring a photography studio in here. I'm like, all right, let's do it. And then so basically sometimes when you're chasing a vision, you don't have all the answers, but you leave room to accept and have a listening ear to the person you're serving. Because if you don't listen to those people that you are serving, then you're going to miss out on future innovations that only they can see that you can't see.
That's good. That's really good.
Be all, know all. I don't know it all, But
that's
I
really
honestly
good.
have built a team of like really amazing artists because they work here. Like we've built like a sense of collaboration and we've innovated the space. Like it's crazy, like the level of like a lot of the organizing that happens in here now is kind of like motivated and driven by the artists that work out of here too. So it's just like really amazing reciprocation of we're all here for a purpose, and the Eastside Arthouse is our studio, and there's a sense of ownership that has exceeded my imagination of how this business could be ran.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important, and I'm pretty sure you're very grateful for that, and you're one of those, like that's kind of something that maybe you didn't even expect initially, but people taking ownership of something makes it so much better.
Oh heck yeah. Just this is just a quote that I live by too. It's like artists are natural innovators. And just know that that's why people love and enjoy being around artists, talking to artists, is because yes, we're very hard critics within our own works, and then also we can even be aesthetically critical or even critical about our space or about anything. But just know that we're also like natural innovators, like inherently.
That's so good.
As a creative, you must innovate, because that's why there is creative problem solving in everything that you do. No matter whether it's in an art piece or whether it's in a business strategy.
That's so good. All right, so let's tackle these last questions really quick.
Okay, cool.
All right. Awesome. So tell us, the audience, about the growth of your startup and the current needs of Eastside Arthouse.
All right, cool. So just to give you a little bit of context, just full transparency, the art house business is going to take a while to have a return. So at the end of the day, the initial investment is going to be still something that whatever work I do with the art house right now, we're not in the green. But I survive off my residency with the Riverside Art Museum and other private contracts. So like I do commissions and paintings and other murals outside of my residency too, that helps sustain my regular living expenses.
Yes.
So in current situation in terms of growth, we're not financially in the green, but the growth, I'm comfortable with not being fast paced, because when you take your time, you're going to have time to invest into the quality in the people that come into your space. Since this is a co-working space, you must also be mindful of the culture and the environment of like the working space and like the development of the business. So to me, future growth, aside from memberships, we're going to have 2-week boot camps for 14 to 18-year-olds that are advanced in art. That are going to be potentially future art house members, but they may be too young because it's an 18+ space for professional work. We still want to be mindful that our next generation of artists are right now in high school that would love to take a college prep art course, and we're going to be offering those things. So that's one item that we're going to be featuring, and the artists that are going to be teaching that are the artists that work out of the studio. So they are working professional artists that are great with teaching, that are literally teaching at the Cheech. They're teaching at the Riverside Art Museum. These people are teaching at the Getty, like world-renowned museums. So we have like the best artists in Riverside teaching our future youth. So that's awesome. One new, and that's gonna launch. It's actually gonna launch today. And the signups will be basically all this month, and it's going to start in the beginning of August. So August 1st, the workshop starts. It's going to be the first 2 weeks of August, and it's $350, but that's one growth component. The other component will be, we're doing an online merch store. So we're going to be able to do like t-shirts and collaborations with local artists too. And we also have an upcoming group show in September that's going to highlight our best talent in our studio. And we're collaborating on a giant 1-year anniversary group show. So year one, I started with an empty studio. Now year two, we're going to invite you back. For those that attended my launch. And for those that didn't, you can still come check out the business again, and what you'll see 1 year success and what we've done in this last year.
That's freaking awesome.
What our needs are, I think We just need people to support our space. So like attending that 1-year anniversary show, there'll be plenty of opportunities for people to financially support the space. Right now, the revenue of our business doesn't allow for any staff. So I'm the only staff member here, but it's okay. Like, I'm not trying to drive a Lamborghini working at the 99-cent store, you know, like I'm patient for like this, like, oh, I have employees now. That's a privilege, and that's a privilege that I'm willing to wait to not collapse the business. So it's totally cool. The business is self-sustained. There's been weeks where I'm out and the studio still runs. So that's the cool part. And that's why I'm patient. And there's a lot of trustworthy artists here that keeps it afloat. So I think that the needs are just look out on our social media for potential events, workshops, and participate. Even if you can't be a studio member here, I think participating in those things. This is a for-profit business. So capital always helps us.
Absolutely. All right. So tell us about your immediate short-term goals. You mentioned the classes. Any other short-term goals, like maybe 2 immediate short-term goals?
Yeah, so short-term goal is getting our members list to 30 people. So once we have 30 artists, I think that's the cap for our space. From there is then do application only.
Application only.
So application only means like you're on a wait list. And that's a short-term goal is like 30 people. We're getting really close to there.
That's cool.
I won't be able to give you a specific number today, but I just know that we're getting close to that number. Nice. And the other short-term goal will be to just test services that we can offer. So we're testing things from, we're renting out our venue to art-led, or even we have a presentation room here.
Nice.
So we're renting our venue to potential partners that are related to the art scene.
Yes.
And we're doing that for $150 an hour. We're also we're going to start launching our education programs. So that's a short-term goal too. So we're testing, is there a need for educational programs at a higher level here in Riverside? And if so, we'll continue to have them. So if it's supported, then we'll continue to have them. If not, we can pace them out a little longer.
Love it. All right. So here's the long-term future goals: 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years.
Okay. By year 3, we should open our second location. So what that means is that we've built enough revenue to acquire another commercial building to run another studio, and another studio in a new neighborhood. I think every neighborhood in Riverside. So then year 5 would be like, maybe we have a birth of a third one.
A third location.
Year 10, 4+ studios, and these can be planted in Moreno Valley, San Bernardino, where maybe in communities that like similar to Eastside, where if you were an artist growing up in this lifestyle,
they need it.
Like, I would love to have a place where I could believe that this is possible. We all need that story.
I know a place in San Bernardino that might be a good spot too. Maybe I have to talk to you about that offline.
Yeah, so like I said, like I'm patient for those growths, but I think once we have enough capital, I think that's the reinvestment into our communities, is placing these. So the word Eastside could be replaced with your community's name. Right. So if you wanted one on Arlington, then it's gonna be Arlington Art House. If you want one in Canyon Crest, we're launching Canyon Crest Art House. And I think if I can build a rhythm of a successful business, then inherently these artists that are working here today could be managers of the future studios.
No, that's awesome. I love it, man.
So when you support this studio, it's potentially giving an opportunity for the creatives that have been part of it in the beginning, potentially receiving the opportunity to be parts of the new launches.
That'd be freaking amazing.
Just like, you know, like so that's the big dream, you know, like whether it happens or not, it's all cool, but that's like my current optimistic self.
No, I love it, man.
You know what I mean? So that's just like, that's my growth. It's just copy paste. You know, building curriculum, building environment. This aesthetic is already all written out. It's on a spreadsheet. Like, my business is ready to be purchased. Like,
so it's something that could be scaled. That can be scaled or sold.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. That's a smart way to build a business too.
So I'm that's why I'm taking my time, because I wanted to have everything written. So in case there is in the future, if I decide, I haven't really decided, it's too young to like sell it to anyone, but if I decide, hey, I want a financial partner in this, like who has this amount of capital to launch one in their neighborhood, and I have all of the copy paste to like bring us. So potentially a person that has more wealth or more money could bring something like this alive to their neighborhood in partnership with licensing my brand and serving the starter community. So
that's so cool. So Juan, where can people find you at online, you know, personal profiles, business profiles, and offline, you know, directions to the art house, locations you'll be at?
So we'll start in person. Probably the best person in person will be 4307 Park Avenue. That's actually my house. And the reason I memorize that is because,
you telling people your house?
That address is literally published in like the museum, you know, like residency has already like disclosed my home. So
that's so funny.
If you want to write a little letter to my house and say, hey, Juan, I saw you on this podcast, 4307 Park Avenue, Riverside, California, 92507. If you want to visit me in business hours from noon to 7 p.m. and hope to see me in the studio. Sometimes I do work outside the studio, like doing projects outside of home or outside of the art studio. Then it's 4177 Park Avenue. So it's literally a block away from my home is the studio, which is super cool. And if you just want to Google us, eastsidearthouse.studio, that's our URL. And then there's when you can see what our studio offers, the rates, and the future innovations of the business. If you're a social media person, we have Instagram is our strongest social media account. So
follow their Instagram.
Eastside Arthouse. Check that space out. We're going to be featuring the future artists. We've even have opportunities to like publish our artists in the Riverside Art magazine. So if you catch us in the Riverside Art magazine, that has our contact information on there too, where we feature Beat Your Local Artists publications that literally your membership gets you highlighted across the city. Like that's already a membership perk that I didn't even talk about in this podcast, but
there you go.
That would be the best way. I think if it was, and if you go on Google, I'm gonna give you a secret, Eastside Arthouse, and there's a phone number on Google. That's my personal cell phone number. So feel free to text me or call me. I'm not that popular yet where this is a problem. So I'm very reachable if you guys ever need to reach out to me.
Yeah, this is awesome. Go check out Juan on eastsidearthouse.studio and all of the other places he told you to check them out. Just don't be a stalker. He don't mind. He don't mind. Yeah. Are there any events coming up really soon that people may want to, know about that you're doing?
No, right now we're on a work mode right now.
Work mode. Okay.
Yeah. So if you want to see any future events, we're probably going to be launching them probably within the next 3 weeks. We'll have some flyers out. Okay. But right now we're just tidying up a couple of loose ends, but just know that we're literally as a collective, as an artist collective, we're creating a art show that's going to blow the city's mind. I think it's going to be one of its kind. And we want to invite everyone to that art show because it's going to I don't know, we literally did critique nights for it. We literally are talking about solidarity and original art as well. So they're all going to be sold at the same price. And as like a statement to say like, we're all together in this. Yes. And Riverside, these are the artists that are part of your community. Come meet them.
That's pretty hot. That's pretty hot, bro. All right. So
that's going to be That's going to be the best thing.
Where can they find that announcement when it comes out? That's gonna be hot. That's gonna be awesome.
That's gonna be on our Instagram account. So
on the Instagram.
So probably by the time the public, probably in 2 weeks. Instagram in 2 weeks.
Okay.
We're going to have that announcement.
That might be around the time we publish this podcast too, because we got some coming out before this. So.
Okay, that's totally cool. So I think that's something I look forward to. So by the time this is live, if you go to the Eastside Arthouse Instagram, you'll see that flyer. Or if not, just come into our studio, visit us. We'll probably have some printed flyers here that you can distribute to your friends or just take for yourself and just walk in and see his work if you'd like.
Awesome. Juan, thank you so much for coming on the the Founders Podcast, this one is going to be freaking awesome once we publish it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning into the Founders Podcast. Make sure you click the like button. Make sure you subscribe. We really are looking forward to, pushing out this podcast and pushing out others. Visit Juan at Eastside Arthouse. Go join the studio, and keep an eye and an ear open for everything that Eastside Arthouse is going to be doing. Once again, thank you for coming on. Ladies and gentlemen, peace.
Thank you.